Hello, this is the Fight Chatter podcast being recorded on July 12th, episode 4. First off, I did not watch the Shakur Stevenson fight. I did not want to pay for the pay-per-view. I did see the results. You can go on Boxing Talk or whatever website you choose to get those results, maybe watch some clips. Remember when these type of fights were on Showtime or HBO? And you didn't have to pay pay-per-view. And remember when DAZN came out and they said they weren't going to do pay-per-view, just go ahead and buy our monthly service, and now everything seems to be DAZN pay-per-view? Yeah, that's why I'm not a member of DAZN, and I don't order DAZN pay-per-views. Anyways, if you have a Roku TV or a Samsung TV, there is a DAZN channel. You can watch the fight a week from now. If you want to watch the whole thing, you can go and digest clips off of following DAZN on social media. So definitely check those things out. And if you did order it, I mean, great. I'm glad you ordered it. Glad you supported your fighters. So anyways, what I wanted to talk about that card is, unfortunately, Isaiah Rodriguez, our local boxer there that was going to be fighting on the undercard. Unfortunately, he was a late scratch. I know why he was scratched off the card. It's nothing too major, not going to affect his career, but I'm also not going to talk about that because you can, that's his business. So I'm not going to talk about that. I feel really bad because this was the type of fight that was going to be all eyes on card. I mean, the top matchmakers, the top trainers, everybody was going to be there. It was going to be a good night for Isaiah and Allhard, especially going in there. Isaiah has the talent. He was going to be able to go in there and go rounds and show that he could really push a prospect in the ring. I'm not going to pretend that Isaiah wasn't fighting a big uphill battle, but the opportunity to get a good payday and get that opportunity to show where you are to get more big paydays, unfortunately, Isaiah's not going to get that. That didn't come this weekend. It will come. I feel like it will come pretty soon. He is slated to fight on both of the All Hard cards this fall, and so we're looking forward to that. Hopefully he can get another opportunity like this before then, but if he doesn't, I mean, seeing him on the local cards, that's going to be great. By the way, speaking of All Heart promotion cards, in addition to the Golden Spike card that's going to happen this fall, I noticed they added a November card back over at the warehouse. That's really exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm very excited that we have local boxing here in Utah promoting the local fighters. I'm hoping that this thing could get big and we could just have local pro boxing fights, just like we have local MMA with Steel Fist and Fierce FC. I'm hoping that this all could kind of blow up bigger for everyone, because when you have more opportunities, it's good for everybody. Just kind of continuing on, Devon Jackson was impressive last night, defeating Logan's Mauro Gutierrez. That was a good fight. It was a good fight, good entertaining fight. A little bit of everything, as I reported on my Substack. Devon Jackson definitely won that fight. I had it scored 30-27. Kind of didn't like the scoring on that fight. Not that Devon Jackson didn't deserve a shutout. I just didn't like the 30-24 and 30-26 scores, because I personally didn't think that there was a 10-8 round in there for Devon Jackson, yet alone 3 10-8 rounds as one judge scored it. I will give them a little bit of a benefit of the doubt as far as it's hard to score MMA when it goes to the ground. And so if Jackson took him to the ground and stayed on top of him, and you don't see the little subtle things that Morrow's doing, trying to get his own submissions from the bottom, defending those submissions. You don't see the subtle things as well. Even if you're right up next to the cage. I've been right up next to the cage for fights, and if they go to the ground on the other side of the cage, sometimes it's really hard to see all the little subtle things. So I give them a little bit of grace on that, but on the other hand, if you're a professional judge, you need to do a little bit better. You do need to do better. Maybe I'll have Drew Lipton on here. He judges MMA, and he also judges other sports. He actually, and he's fought here in Utah. He's a fighter's fighter, and I look forward to bringing him on here. He's going to be in Utah in the next couple of months, so I'm gonna bring him in here for an interview, a podcast. So that's something to look forward to. Want to talk to him about his opinions on some of these scorings. And it's easy for me to criticize watching the fights on YouTube. You could watch the fights on YouTube, and if you think I'm off, if you think that one round or 2 rounds or all 3 rounds, as that one judge scored it, was justified 10-8, please let me know in the comments. I am always open to hearing other people's opinions, and if you make a good case, I will definitely listen. I'll change the way that I look at things. So I'm not that hard-headed. I am hard-headed, but it kind of goes with the territory. Anyways, it was actually a pretty entertaining fight. Pretty entertaining fight card. If you have a couple hours that you want to spend watching some local MMA, go ahead and check that one out. It's free. It's on YouTube. Thomas Pestriches. I'm gonna say that. I'm sorry, I butchered his name. I'm pretty sure. He lost by first round knockout. It was definitely an impressive win for Starwell, and I might have pronounced his name wrong too. Anyways, definitely an impressive win. I hope Thomas takes some time off. He's got a lot of fights. He's had a lot of fights in a short period of time over the last couple of years. I believe, though, and I was looking at it and I was chatting with Doug Gibson, I believe he has like 6 or 7 fights in the last 2 years, and that's a lot of fights. It's being very active. And so I don't know if he needs to necessarily think about retiring or anything like that. I think that he definitely needs a break. Let him, take a break, clear your mind, get back to where you need to be, and then come back and look good in your next fight. But I mean, I hope that he takes a good 6 months off, doesn't try to fight again until January, until next year. I would after that, I would advise a fighter to take the rest of the year off, start working on some things, and then come back on a Fierce FC Challenger Series card or whatnot. Steven Starwalt, who did beat Thomas, he looked really good, and he's fought on Fierce FC cards in the past as well. And I was actually at his last fight for Fierce FC Challenger Series. He looked good, but he also looked outmatched in that fight. This fight, equally looking, he was outmatched, where he was outmatched the other way. Not taking anything away from Thomas, but Starwalt did what I would suggest Thomas did. He took a good amount of time off, then he came back and ended up looking good. So, so good fights in Boise, though. Looking forward to the next one, especially since they're on YouTube. I'll definitely check out the next one. The amateur fights were good. There was a fight on that undercard with the amateurs where I believe they said it was a 44-year-old guy came in, dad bod looking, and you watch it and you kind of think, why is this guy in there? They said he took the fight last minute, hadn't fought for a long time, and you're just kind of scratching your head. And then the guy he fought came out, they were talking about how good he did the last time he was there, had a highlight reel knockout, and then dad bod guy just absolutely destroyed him. It was a fun fight to watch. I think that one was over in about a minute and a half, if that. So definitely, if you like I said, if you have a little bit of time to check out those Front Street fights, and there's 32 of them. They're on YouTube. Check them out. I mean, if you're a fight fan and you just want to watch some local MMA, check those out. Anyways. Moving on. Let's talk about Christian Aguirre. He's going to be fighting in Oregon at the Arena Wars, where he won back in April against Scotty Stockman. Definitely great to see him back on the winning streak. This time he's going to be fighting Mike McMillan, who's out of Oregon, former football standout. He won some Golden Gloves tournaments. Definitely a little bit better than, well, not better, but because, a 3-0 record is good. Definitely more seasoned than the 7-month pro would appear on paper. So Christian's got an uphill battle with that. Christian definitely has the talent. He definitely has the skill, and he has the heart to win this fight. I feel like this is a good fight for Christian. The only thing that I'm kind of worried about for him, and I mentioned this to him when we were chatting, is that he is fighting as a light heavyweight. I think Christian's best fighting weight would be 160, where he has better power. He's not fighting against guys that are has a real size advantage over him, and he can get good middleweight sparring over there in over at State Street. I hope he can get some time sparring with Sean again. I think Sean Cross, because of Sean's dimensions, his reach, his size, I think that would be good for him. Hopefully he can get some good rounds in before this fight. But that's going to be good. I'm glad to see him stepping back up into main events, fighting good fights, and definitely fighting fights that he has a chance at winning. He's the type of guy that, he could land something and win a lot of fights, but he fought some guys that he probably shouldn't have in the situations that he was. He took a lot of short notice fights, took some fights where, basically he was getting paid really well. So, just kind of like what Isaiah is probably looking to do, trying to get in there, show that he can go rounds, put up a good fight, and make some good money. The problem is that when you get too many of those losses in a row, it becomes harder to get licensed. It gets harder to get those fights. They become fewer and far between. So I'm glad Christian's getting this fight. He's going to be able to, if he wins, he'll be able to get into double-digit wins. This is a 6-round fight, so hopefully he could stay up in the 6 to 8 round mark where he's going to be making more money for his fights. And that's the biggest thing, is you got to go out and make money. You know. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on with Utah. You could read about some of these things on my Substack. Mauro Gutierrez, we talked about his fight with Devon Jackson. He did show really good foot and striking in that fight. I hope, here's what I would hope Mauro does. I hope he takes a little bit of a break, goes and fights on the all-heart cards, either a rematch with Jesus or, whomever Jason has for him to fight. I hope he can get those fights. I hope he can get a couple of wins, and then maybe go on the road with boxing and make some good money, and fight some prospects. See if he could get up to, if he could level up. Like I mentioned, those are the things that are going on locally. A lot going on. Go ahead and follow my Substack, because I'm going to try to keep up with all of that. And I'll either report it on the Substack or I'll talk about it here on the podcast. So the podcast has been mostly, it's all been all me, just sitting here in my basement talking to the computer. Hopefully a few people out there are actually listening to the whole thing, getting some good perspectives. I know at least one guy does, Doug Gibson. So I appreciate anybody who takes the time to listen to this. And like I said, one of the things I like to do is stories. Stories. We're gonna take this thing. I'm gonna take this thing out of the basement. I'm actually gonna get behind the camera, so you'll get to see my mug here soon. Most of the time, this, like I mentioned, this is gonna be kind of like a radio podcast where I just talk, because I have a face for radio. But we will be going to Cisco's barbershop here shortly. We're finalizing that up. Cisco, Doug Gibson, and I, we're going to talk boxing and MMA, and plug Cisco's barbershop there in Ogden, Utah. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. We're finalizing plans on that. Looking forward to that. But I did want to give you some stories here from a card that took place in July of 2005. This was actually the first boxing card that I covered in Reno. It was the second boxing card that I covered altogether for Boxing Talk, and it was a Showtime card. Showtime main event was Samuel Peter, former WBC heavyweight champion. This fight was for a few different North American titles, USBA, NABA, NABF. He was fighting Taurus Sykes, knocked Taurus Sykes into next week in the second round. And you can go ahead and watch that. I'll go ahead and put the a YouTube link to that fight on here. Undercard was fantastic. I mean, this one was promoted by Dino Duva and Duva Boxing. Lou was there too. Lou was there. He was working the corners of Oscar Diaz. We all know we all have heard of Oscar Diaz. If you didn't, go ahead and Google him. He ended up being a tragic story in boxing, but he was a good guy. Definitely a good guy. He was friends with this other guy I'm going to talk about in a minute. Former world champion Elena Reed. Elena Baby Doll Reed was on there. She had some good fights in her day. She also fought MMA. She took on Stephanie All Action Dobbs, and I remember when I wrote my article for Boxing Talk on this one, and I'm going to pull that one out. I'll put a link to that. I put something, I'll have to pull that out. It's been a while since I read it. It's probably been, well, this was 20 years ago, so it's probably been about 2 decades since I've read it. I put something about Elena dominating Dobbs or something like that, and Stephanie Dobbs actually emailed me saying she didn't do this, muttonhead. Never heard from her again. Now, Stephanie All Action Dobbs was actually in the Guinness Book of World Records. I don't know if she still is, but she at one time was, for having the most professional fights for a female fighter. I don't know if she was surpassed or not in her career, but yeah, she fought out of the South, and when you're fighting on those southern circuits, you can fight a lot in Oklahoma and Arkansas and Georgia. You could just kind of go around those circuits, and it's gotten a little bit more strict now, but back then, 20 years ago, it was still wide open where you could go fight a whole lot. She also fought a lot in Nevada as well. Some good fights. I met Gus Corinne out of House of Champions Gym in Florida. There he had a Michael Marone, who was also with Lou Duva. Michael Marone was a bit of a prospect for a while. Ran into a wall fighting in Germany against Francisco Pinata. Francisco went on to fight for the world title a couple of times. In fact, his last fight was against Tyson Fury. Retired off of that fight. Michael Marone was a good prospect, and then he split with Gus Corinne and Lou Duva, and kind of went out on his own and didn't do so well afterwards. Probably his other highlight fight when you look at his record is he did fight Shannon Briggs as well, and I believe Briggs knocked him out in the second round. He also fought for the cruiserweight title at one point on a Don King card. So he had some accolades. I believe when I read about what he's doing now, I think he's like an insurance salesman or a real estate agent, something like that. I hope he's doing well. He was a good kid. I remember talking to him. I say kid because he was probably about 6 or 7 years younger than me. He was young. I want to say he was 19 on this fight card, and I remember seeing him on the card, and I was going to volunteer myself to fight against him, but I was really grateful that I ended up not fighting against him. Anyways, because I would have been knocked into the next week by him. I probably would not just next week. I mean, he probably would have hurt me permanently. Anyways, a couple of friendships for me, really good friendships, popped up off this card. One of them was with a Hall of Fame fighter. Nonito Donaire was fighting on this card, and he was fighting the walkout bout. And I remember I had interviewed Sam Peter and was talking to a few other people, and I'm standing there, and he's there, he's warming up, getting ready to walk to the ring. And I remember I stopped right there and talked to him and interviewed him right there, right before he went into the ring. He came out, he fought his fight, he did, won every round, looked really good. Came back and I interviewed him again right afterwards. And after we got done with the interview, he said, "Yeah, I remember I saw you walking around at this other, there was like an ESPN card in Oakland that I had went to, and he had saw me walking around. We didn't really get a chance to talk then and meet, but yeah, he recognized me. I guess, a big Korean guy is hard to miss, but yeah, he recognized me. We talked about that then. Nonito came and fought again on a couple other cards in the area, and I got to know him really well. And I had gotten his phone number at this card. We talked on the phone. We text messaged. I got to know him really well, and for a while, probably until about 2009, 2010, I was one of his go-to people to report. So whenever he found out he was fighting somewhere, he would call me first. Now, the problem is that he would call me first, but his manager and Cameron Duncan and Gary Shaw, who was his promoter for a while, they would call Greg Leone, or they would call Flat Top over at Fight News or whomever. They would call the bigger reporters as opposed to me. So like a lot of times Nonito would give me the information. I would write something up and send it to the editor, and they would have already posted something about that. So but Nonito and we had a lot of good times together. I'll go into more of those stories. But the other fighter I want to talk about was a guy who didn't even win on this card, and I don't want to discount that because I know he trained really hard for this fight. I remember meeting him a few weeks before this card. We were working out over at Kelvin Davis's gym called Concrete Boxing. Kelvin Davis at the time was the IBF cruiserweight champion. I don't believe he had lost the title just yet at the time. And we were working out at that gym with Kelly, Kelvin's brother. And I remember shadow boxing and hitting the bag, and he saw me and he's like, whoa, and he gave me a little bit of advice on the way I was holding my hands and the way I was throwing a couple of the punches. So definitely remember that. He didn't remember me. And so then I'm sitting there in press row. He comes out for the first fight. So instantly, hey, there's the guy I was working out with at the gym. I'll go ahead and cheer for him. Working out that one day at the gym, cheering for him. He ended up getting stopped in the third round to Ray Biggs Jr., who was another one of Lou Duva's prospects. He ended up not going too far because he had some injuries. Didn't really talk to Simon that day, but I did write an article, and I'll have to I'll pull that one up and put it in the comments on this one. The funny thing is in that article I put a line: the Mike Tysons don't have to take care of the Simon Ruvalcabas. So I ran into Simon again, probably like 3 or 4 months later over at a fight card up in Lake Tahoe, and we were talking, and he's like, oh yeah, you're the one who made me famous. And I guess his wife, he was married at the time, and his wife had found the article where I had put that I had put that line on. And so we started talking, and Simon's one of my best friends today. He's he's probably one of the best friends that I've made in boxing. And there's a lot of stories that we have. He was the first fighter that allowed me to advise his career. He would introduce me as he'd say, yeah, this is Chuck, he's my agent. And I would look at him funny and say, why do you always have to point out that I'm Asian? Why do you have to say this is my Asian, like you own me or something? Little joke that we would play when we were walking around. But we have so many stories, and I'm going to have him on here to talk about some of them. We covered a lot of fights together. We we went to we went to a lot of fights. We helped some fighters. We advised some fighters. We had big plans for boxing, and he's now one of the best people you could talk to about sports gambling. He's a sportsbook manager up there in Tahoe. And so, yeah, we'll have to talk about the quick thing. Today is the anniversary of probably his best night in boxing, and this was against a guy named Roman Polak. Polak. This was back in 2003. Now, this was I believe it was a Gotham boxing card, and the main event kept changing, and the main event ended up being Charles Shuford versus Willie Chapman. I just pulled this card up on BoxRec, and I'm looking at it, and I see that, I mentioned Stephanie Dobbs being on the other one. She was on this card too, and she beat Holly Dunaway on this card. But it was a Gotham boxing card promoted by Cedric Kushner, and the main event kept changing. But the main event for the people there in Tahoe was always Simon versus Roman. Roman was out of Reno, and there was just so much you could say this versus that. You had your local Tahoe fighter fighting the Reno fighter. Simon served in the Army, and if I remember right, Roman served in the Marines. I could be wrong. You guys could, one of them could probably correct me. And they both were kind of hard luck fighters. Roman had a record of 0-3, and Simon was going in there, and I believe he was 2-4-1 going into that fight. And so it ended up being what the locals considered the main event, and Simon ended up winning that fight. And it was the last fight he had won for a while, and we'll get into some of those stories later too. Anyways, so that's the podcast. Just wanted to kind of go over that card because it was a fun card for me because, like I said, it was the first big card that it's the first televised card. I talked about the Guilty Boxing card. This one was actually televised on Showtime. Had a future world champion on it in Samuel Peter, future Hall of Famer Nonito Donaire. Ran into a Hall of Famer, Lou Duva, and I'll talk about how my life linked up with not with Lou Duva's life, but how Lou Duva was a little bit of an inspiration for me in a whole bunch of different ways. So, as he was for a lot of people in boxing. So I'll go into those stories at another time. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, it's not going to always be me here in the basement talking to you. We're going to be getting out of the basement. Going to be joined by Doug Gibson of Plan 9 Crunch and Utah Fight Game to bring you some really cool stuff here in the near future. And that's all. I hope you guys have a good week and take care.